Recall our functions come in this form, correct? What else could I replace in my general form? What could be different about that? Always have to be sine. What else could it be? Fourth. Okay, that's the points we're dealing with. A is an amplitude. For those of us who stayed around and enjoyed me trying to time a 40-minute lesson yesterday, the period is how long it takes to repeat itself, and that is found by 2 pi divided by b. Does that make sense? So if we look at this equation here, what's my b value? What's my b value? 1. So it'd be 2 pi divided by 1, which is? 2 pi. Cool, we'll come back to that in a second. With this, what do you need to be aware of? I gave us an example on the board yesterday. Did I use pi? And I remember back to yesterday, and I was told like 24 hours ago. I used degrees, correct? So this could also be 360 over b. What do we need to specify? Whether we are using radians or degrees. What do you reckon the hint is for whether we're using radians or degrees? What's a hint? What do we see with our radians? Lots of pi's, correct? 99.9% of the time the unit you'll be dealing with is radians. Okay, so this is 99.9% of the time. If in doubt, use that. Sweet? Just thought I'd make you aware. Vertical shift and horizontal shift we talked about, but I'm going to come back to those because I don't want to overload you with information. Are we clear? Take home messages, our amplitude, what is that in a nutshell? Yeah, upper and lower boundaries, it's our vertical shift. That's the maximum and minimum value that our sine function will get by itself. Clear? Period is simply how long it takes to repeat itself. So let's have a look at what that looks like, sketching some examples. I'm going to draw a little cast at the unit circle up here. What can come at the unit circle? It has a radius of, and we're dealing with sine, which is our y value. So y equals sine theta. What else can you tell me about this circle up here? What's this point here as an angle? 0 radians, correct? What's this point up here? Pi on 2 radians. What about this one? And this one? And then what happens after here? 2 pi, and it keeps going after that. Cool? So tell me, what does the y value equal at 0?
0.
So sine equals 0 at 0 radians. What about pi on 2? 1. What about pi? 3 pi on 2? 2 pi? 5 pi on 2? And you never guess what's going to happen here.
0.
Okay, it's going to keep going on forever and ever. And it looks something like, if I could draw, something like that. Cool? So, how long did it take to repeat itself? What's one wavelength? Well, here to here, that is 1 period. What did we say the b value was? The b value was 1, so we'd expect that period to be 2 pi, correct? So this distance here is a period. The period of time it takes to repeat. For the next example, can you tell me what's different about this example? What have we changed? The A, the amplitude, and the D, which is what? What do we think is going to happen to our graph? It's going to move up to 2. So what I'm going to do before I go any further is put a point at 2. Happy with that? What's the biggest value this function is going to equal? 2. Sure?
4.
4. What's the smallest value this function is going to equal? Same process. What does y equal when we have x equals 0? What does y equal when we have x equals 0? On our unit circle. X equals 0, what is y? At this point here, what does y equal? What's the y value there? 0 times 2 is? Plus 2 is? Sine of pi on 2, what does that equal? At this point here, what's my y value? Y is 1, correct? 1 times 2 plus 2 minus 1. Ryan, what's going to happen next at pi? What's it equal?
2.
Yep. 3 pi on 2, what's it equal with? Very good. And 2 pi? Haley. Very good. If I connect the dots, it's going to look something like this, correct? Keep going on. Do those functions look similar?
Yes.
The only thing that's changed is I've moved my midpoint. Up 2 places, correct? And I've stretched it a little bit more. Why does it look stretched? Why does my graph not look stretched? What have I not done? I haven't drawn to scale. So that's why my graph doesn't look sketched. If I was going to draw this on the same graph here, I'd have to start up here and probably go to the root or to the top of the board down. Does that make sense? Clear with that? My first function will look something like this on this graph. Oh, not like that, sorry, ignore me. It will look something like that. See the difference? Change the amplitude, not change the vertical shift. So what I want you to do now is question 1 on exercise 8.3. It's asking us to simply look at an equation and calculate our amplitude and our period for the following functions. And then you're going to do question 3.